Hey everyone, this is Dusko Maka Aesthetic Gamer, and this next name is known as Phenomeno. Phenomeno is a visual novel by the same people who did Steins Gate, Sayonara Uda, etc. that released earlier this year. A fan translation has been done. It's not a complete story, in the beginning it's still going to be Japanese, just going to warn you, English translation doesn't start until after the main menu. However though, this game is a horror game. Wait, what? This is new. I didn't see this last time I started. Maybe if I click the first option. Turn the page to destiny. There are things that shouldn't be seen. Well, that's very deliberate. Often said my late grandmother, and that was quite true. I was drawn to the occult from childhood, and upon entering university, I learned the truth of those words by stepping many times into the edges of the netherworld. That's turning invisible, right? Spacebar does that. Ghost. Beings which no one can decisively determine whether they exist or not. The story that begins here revolves around stories brought forth by them. And this story, it can also be said to be the story of it and I. As its eyes glimmer in front of a strangeness, as it breathes out words with a bedazzled expression, it warped the world that I always believed in. It made me anxious to whether the ground I stood on would shake. I would want to look over my shoulder just by listening, and I grew to fear whether someone was peeking from the dark shadow of the door. Maybe it was because of the words it spoke included truths about the other side, included truths that only applied to the scant, grotesque warning dead ones, waning. Now, after it has disappeared, do I finally know that? As grandmother said, it was a world that I should not have seen. It was a story that was not for the living person. However, I intend to speak of that. I intend to speak all of that. Because if I don't, it wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Because it, having lived on the edge of darkness, having struggled through the bitter soul of darkness, would not be able to live in peace. Yes, I'll say it once more. From here on is a story that shouldn't be known, but one that she wants to tell, he, she, it. Actual main character is probably a guy. Or it could be a she, I don't know. We're gonna get started right off the bat with this game. I don't know too much what's going to happen here. I mean, I trust in the writers. They usually tell pretty good stories from my experience and things I've experienced written by the guy and visual novels done by this team. So, yeah. Case 01. All the blank. Called Dot or Flow. I almost said Dot Flow because whenever I see the word flow now, I think of the game Dot Flow. Freaking A. Stuff like that happens. Remember, some sort of creepy scratching sound. I can do it too. That sounds more like a saw. It's getting louder, and is that dog bowl? Oh no, it's a school setting. Hey, mother. If the beings called ghosts existed in this world, would it ever be possible for someone to prove their existence such that no one else could argue otherwise? I think it would be impossible no matter how much humanity involves. On the flip side, it also means no one anywhere could prove infuriatably that they do not exist. From that standpoint, to discuss whether ghosts exist or not is a complete waste of time. That's why people who can emerge victorious from such a discussion must be people who can purely enjoy ghosts as a source of entertainment. Indeed, I fall into that group, as you could call me quite bluntly as an occult maniac. That's me too, I'm an occult maniac. I love to kill horror. Mother may not know, but this is quite a niche existence in the world. To be of my age and go ghost this, Yuma that. I'm going ghost. I know that people laugh at people like me, but you know, there are plenty of things in this world that are inexplicable. Yes. People don't laugh at me for liking horror, do they? No, I'm just kidding. For example, the house I'm living in. This old, almost 30 years old building is by the side of Tamagawa Waterworks, and partly because it's located in such an odd place, has an incredibly low rent. When I came to Tokyo this spring, I looked for a cheap apartment and found this place. It takes 10 minutes of biking to reach a convenience store. It's surrounded by darkness and covered by thick cops. And because there are no streetlights in the area, it's completely dark at night. However, I enjoy this old building. It was built like an old mountain cottage. At the first floor was a garage, and the second and third floors were blowouts, so it was more than luxurious for a person living alone. The kitchen was as cramped as a kitchenette, but it had a living room, a Japanese-style room, a bath, and even an atelier. From what I hear, an architect had designed it as a personal workplace. I liked it at first sight. Furthermore, for a place with a bath to be just 30,000 yen in Tokyo, Moshinano was unlikely rare, and even came with an oral story that could not be ignored. Are houses in Tokyo without baths common? I mean, I know they have public bathhouses, but... okay. This is a house that grants wishes. So said the smiling real estate agent who introduced this place to me. The architect who built this became famous, the illustrator who moved in became busy and moved closer to the city, and the young couple that was living here until last month gave birth to a baby, which led to this becoming open. You are quite lucky. After hearing that, who would immediately seal the deal? Who wouldn't? So I jumped at the opportunity. There was probably a feeling of superiority too, given that my colleagues at university pay twice the rent and live in rabbit cages. In any case, I was quite pleased at how lucky a man I was with my first time living alone. Yet, within a month, I realized how big of a mistake that was. Oh my, there's something wrong with a house that is too good to be true? Never. Meanwhile, on my calculator, I can hear sounds somewhere when I'm sleeping at night. The squeaking is something persistently attempting to open some old door. I'd assume it was just some bad structuring somewhere, but I soon realized that it was odd that it always happened at 2 a.m. I tried going to the living room from my bedroom at the edge of the second floor, and the sound would stop. I thought maybe it was coming from above and went to the atelier on the third floor, but there was nothing that could be the source of the sound. I planned to eventually organize it to be cooler, but at the moment it was a bare environment with just my desk and a bookshelf. I looked around, but the windows were all shut, so there was nothing to make a sound. After that, I went to the toilet and the bath. See, we do have a bath. However, I could not find anything that could be connected to the sound. So I thought maybe I'm just hearing things and went to sleep again. God freaking damn it. But then the sound started again. Squeak. The sound of old wood groaning. I could also hear the sound of something scrapping. It wasn't like a mouse or a cat. It was an eerie sound. Like something trying to crawl out somewhere dark after having been tormented for a long time. Eventually, that sound stopped, seemingly echoing throughout the house and felt like it was seeping through the atmosphere around my ear. As a result, I began to keep the lights on throughout the house and using earplugs while sleeping. However, the problem stopped being just sound. It was about 2 weeks ago, I found a decisive thing. I found T7 carved into the wall of the landing of the stairs with something sharp. I immediately checked the doors and windows around the house. I think we're haunted. But there didn't seem to have been anyone entering. I was probably terrified. It was a pretty big engraving, but I forced myself to think I had never noticed it before. A few days later, though, I found near the bathtub 6. Something sharp had carved it into the windowsill. Then a week ago, I found near the toilet 5. And even this easygoing person had to believe it. Something was in the house. And that this was some countdown. I immediately jumped out of the house. I couldn't live in the house anymore. I hadn't made any close friends yet at university, so I lived in karaoke boxes and net cafes for several days. I couldn't talk about this to anyone. I didn't know any monks nor any mediums. Then I realized... Right. Maybe the people from Ikaibachi, Edge of the Netherworld, would be perfect for discussing this with. The colleagues of mine who were also into the occult world may believe me. And so... Incidentally, they aren't suspicious people at all. No, we are plenty suspicious. Huh? I recoiled at the sudden voice from above. Here we go, lady. When I looked up, I saw Karasu's white face, and she was waving her hand. Now let's see if I can actually think of a voice for her. Yo, Nagi! You guys want me to do a silly voice like that? Something more serious. I'll leave it up to you. I mean, I can't do serious, unfortunately. After all, I'm just a person, and I'm not a woman. But I could try harder. I might ruin it. Yo, Nagi! Karasu! Since when were you there? I checked the time on my cell phone. It was 10:30 p.m. There were still 30 minutes until the offline meeting taking place at 11. Right around when you began explaining the house that grants wishes to your mother. That's basically the start. I complained as I grumpily placed my stationery back in my bag. There's a typo in the translation there. Sorry, but you know, peeping in's like our trait, you know. Oh, I'll do it like this. Sorry, but you know, peeping in's like our trait, you know, said Karasu as she smiled cutely. This was a family restaurant near Atsuki Ichiki Road. We were going to have an emergency offline meeting here with the members of our occult site I frequent. And of course, Karasu wasn't her real name. It was a handle that she used online. Just as I, Yamato Nagito, go by the name Nagi, she went by Karasu. And this was the third time we met, but I still don't know her real name. However, she was a veteran on the Higabakuji site, and thus a big senior to me, who'd only began looking at the site this spring. Her appearance was as usual, a purplish velvet dress that reached her ankles, and below that was just a black camisole, or rather her chest was completely bare. Her breasts looked like they would jump out at any time, which made looking at her awkward. Made reading that more awkward than you might think, too. However, this was her uniform of sorts. I was not expecting to say that tonight. That's all I can say. Anyways, though, back to the reading. The music's nice, too, and the art style's nice. I hear the artist is really popular, though. The artist who drew the drawings in this visual novel, but yeah. You're quite early. Did you close shop early today? Oh, that's me talking. You're quite early. Did you close shop early today? I asked. Pretty much. Fortune tellers don't have much to do when there are no customers. She took off the stole that she was wearing and sat down across from me. But, you know, to put it frankly, she played with the skull-shaped accessory shining at her breast as she looked at me. Your house probably has nothing to it. What? What was it? Right. Schema. Schema? Some word used in cognitive science. If you keep thinking you're scared, then you start seeing faces in the ceiling. That sort of thing. Because you were hearing squeaking every day, you began seeing numbers from the scratches that always were in your house. Seriously? Seriously? I mean, you came to Tokyo alone from super ruralness in Shizuoka, and this is the first time you're living alone, right? And then you're living in an old wooden house alone, so that's not too surprising. I used to live in a house that groaned and squeaked a lot, so I know how you feel. It's like the sound of sarin wrapping. It's pretty discomforting. Alright. So, she said as she raised her hand to order beer from the waitress. Well, wait then. If this was just me being a wuss, then what would I say to the occult veterans that were coming to an offline meeting? Would I get banned from the wonderful site for being an airhead in just one night? Oh no, My life is on this website. I need to let my occultness out somehow. And the perfect expressionism is the internet. No, seriously, it is. The internet's great for getting the people that have similar interests to yourself, so yeah. Don't worry about it. She laughed. Don't worry about it. We're just a bunch of folks that love mean and train shady stories. But it shouldn't be that simple. There were about 10 people coming to this meeting. And then Karasu said, huh? And looked at me. You hadn't looked? At what? This meeting. I think over 30 people are showing up. What? I hurried to access the Ikobuji offline meeting board through my cell phone. And then opening the House That Grants Wishes investigation thread and was taken aback. You're right. My numbers suddenly rocket. Are that many people interested in the House That Grants Wishes? Unfortunately, not at all. See, even the regulars, Suit and Zippo, are coming to the meeting, right? They wouldn't move for some mere horror tale. Some horror tale? She laughed at the expression I made as she plucked the phone from my hand and then played with it. And then she turned the screen to me. This, the fourth poster, going by the name Yoichi. I think this many people are showing up because this one announced their participation. Who is Yoichi? No idea. Yeah, said Karasu with a grin as she pulled out a cigarette. She lit the cigarette using a worn, slender lighter, and after blowing out a puff of smoke, quietly whispered, "Those that meet Yoichi die 7 days later." So they all want to meet someone who killed them 7 days later? Well, what a group of interesting folks. Way to make me not feel special. What? There's more. Yoichi isn't a living person. Offline means that Yoichi attends end in terror. What else was there? Coffee. I'm smoking. That's why you don't do cigarettes, kids. Or even voice someone playing a cigarette. What is it? Something like an urban legend that started being whispered around Akaiboichi. Yet no one actually met Yoichi. No one knows if Yoichi is some old man or even what gender they are. Everyone who attends a meeting that Yoichi goes to remains silent. The entry thread disappears. Their participants stop going to Akaiboichi or they die. Her low whisper felt like ice cold water splashing down the back of my neck. On the other side, Kurosu was happily received her glimmering cup of beer and exclaimed, "Delicious!" with a lacquers-in tone. But those are just rumors, right? I asked, and she laughed. That's right. So, basically, even if the House That Grants Wishes is a miss, there's the hope of Yoichi. So everyone's going gathering for fun, so you don't have to fret about it any. She said, but I still felt mixed emotions. Until today, I was trembling with fear, alone, unable to go home, but then I suggested days offline meeting in the hopes of gaining the opinions of the veterans of Akaibachi. Having the story blown off immediately as a misunderstanding wasn't sufficient to quell my fears. However, if Yoichi has gotten interested, might the House That Grants Wishes be true? Real? That's me. Who knows? I'm just interested in seeing how Yoichi-kun's appearance changes horror stories that interest me into something more eerie. Doesn't interest? If it still bothers you, Akaibachi has a page for investigating haunted areas. You can request an investigation, and though I still think you'll end up being laughed at. Ha! She laughed as she quickly finished her beer. Indeed, the Akaibachi site did routinely check out haunted areas around the country regardless of fame. After investigation, haunted areas were graded on a scale of A to D, with A being the most dangerous spots. This rating was very unique in that farmed areas such as Masakoto Kaibiri and Iwana were given a D rank by Achubacha. In other words, they were rated at the lowest level of danger. Supposedly, it was because it had become an area that was evenly split as humans and ghosts treated each other with respect. I will say this, though. I should join an occult website. They probably exist on the internet. Just need to find an Oregon occult site, join, and before you know it, I'll have all my occult buddies. Investigate. Actually, honestly speaking, I don't believe in ghosts and all that. I'm a very huge skeptic, so... Yeah, despite the fact I love horror and all that. On the other hand, places given an A rank were often unknown to the commonplace. Places such as crime scenes that involved murders brought forth by thick emotions such as infatuation and jealousy, isolated locals of death by seniors who maintained fanatic delusions, and so on. They say those places serve as lightning rods for souls that represented the current world, souls that had lost personalities and simply became clumps of malicious intent, far beyond saving. As I thought such things, Karasu had begun peering intently at my face. Hey, Nagi-kun? Yes. You had the mark of a meeting. Yes. And this is a girl. Seriously? My expression loosened at her words. Can you tell me a little more? Is that me or her? That was me. She began playing with a skull-shaped accessory near her breast as she continued. How should I put it? It's very dense meeting, like two souls previously split are reuniting, but... She said, seemingly looking through me in that different world. It's hard to say if meeting this girl will actually result in happiness for you. What's that? And furthermore... Wait, is she dead? Hey... Isn't that like being possessed? You gotta be kidding me. I thought, but I also remembered that she would tell me such ominous things every time we met. Previously, she told me I had bicycle luck, and then I got hit by a mama cycle on the way back, and then she told me I had gold fortune, and I was happy, but then I stepped on a gold-colored thumbtack at home. In other words, she was very good at presenting unfortunate things in a way that you can't tell it's unfortunate, which is an important skill for a fortune teller, I suppose. You know, Karasu, if you're a fortune teller, shouldn't you also tell people how to avoid misfortune? I asked. But it's up to a person to think of something as unfortunate. She just stuck out your tongue at me. She stuck out her tongue in a cute way and then shouted to the employees passing by, "Another beer!" Not like that. "Another beer, please." As I sat there watching over her in a vexed manner, the door chimes sounded repeatedly and suspicious-looking people filed in one after another. Seeing how they were coming one for noticing Katsu, I deduced they were people attending the offline meeting. Well, that's one way to get everything creepy. Let's see. Alright, this is someone's like, "Yo, Karasu, as beautiful as always," like that, basically. "Long time to no see to you too, Maru. I'm so excited." I don't know who this Maru guy is, if it's a girl. I'll be like, pfft. "We have karmic dispositions." As such conversations continued, my seat in the back of the family restaurant slowly became surrounded by activity. Every now and then I would see a familiar face, but most I had never seen before. I had actively been participating in offline meetings in Tokyo, and that I continued seeing new faces en masse each time made me realize how deep the world of the occult was. Just after 11, the group that had gathered at the back of the family restaurant, with the odd interest, had passed 30. Or rather, I'd picked the family restaurant figurine, there'd be 10, so this was a pretty big transgression. The look from the waitress passing by, awkward smiles at me, hurt. "Are there more coming?" I quietly asked Karasu, who was engaging in friendly chat with other attendees, and she was a bit blushed as she responded. "It's way too late now. There are a bunch of people who show up without saying anything, so there'll probably be a few more." "That's problematic. This might scare away Yoichi too," she commented lightly, "but this might really be troublesome." She could be drunk, I don't know. Quite possibly. "So, which one's Yoichi?" As expected, not even an hour passed before the conversation blew past the house that grants wishes. The countless occult veterans crammed into the family restaurant. Each looked around them, frantically looking for the accursed Yoichi. Alright, I propose introducing ourselves, said the middle-aged. Alright, I propose introducing ourselves, said the middle-aged man going by the handle Professor with his blush face. Seeing empty beer mugs scattered around the table revealed how drunk this person was, and in response others chanted, "Yeah, let's do it," and one by one stood up and gave their greeting. As at least half the participants were getting quite drunk, people began feeling less like a cult maniacs and more of a complete drinking party. First, I'm Professor. My preferred area of occult are stories from people of post-trauma necessity. Past whatever. And now Rabbit's probably a girl. I'll try this.
Second, I'm Rabbit. I love folklore about Ryoin Zakuna-sama.
Harley. Fuck, since there's 30 people, how am I gonna voice everyone? I don't know who's important and who's not. Alright. Let's see how this goes. Let's do it like this. Go home, Professor, you're drunk. Ha 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 ha. I don't know, Harley's probably a girl, but could also be a guy. And it's a name that can go both ways. Mine's more associated with women, so let's see. Third. I can't give Harley the idiot voice because it's really hyperactive. Third, I'm Harley. I get excited by stuff related to ooh parts. At the moment, I'm researching Voynich manuscripts. What are they going first, second, third for? Why are Rabbit and Harley both jumping on the wagon? The occult maniacs were very playful, and so they began introducing themselves one by one. With incredibly loud volume, I alone seemed to be taking the brunt of the customers' glares and the rest of the restaurant. Seventh, I'm Karasu. When she energetically stood up, a round of applause rose, and in response, she began socializing every which way, so I gave up. Come to think of it, it could be said that every offline mean for Ikabacha turns out this way, and so it's like a tray of the sight. Here, Nagakun, it's your turn next. Urged by Karasu, I begrudgingly stood up. Hey, I'm Nagi. I'm a university student. What type of culture you like? I like anything wonderful, but right now, things related to Ghost. When I lightly responded to a question that had been flung at me, people began shouting, "You're too tightly wound! You need to drink more!" And someone ordered beer for me. Man, I'm still 18. I'm underage. I can't drink. But I will anyway. Don't worry, I'll drink it. Just act like you're drinking, and they'll be appeased. Appease the occult maniacs. Laughed Karasu as she smacked my butt with her paw. Oh, what the fuck are you doing, Karasu? Ah. Toll. Well, in any case, 30 or so people introduced themselves like this. And the conclusion. There was no one here who went by the handle Yoichi. Huh, so they didn't show up. I showed up to see Yoichi. Is anyone faking their handle? Said people one by one, but given that most had never seen other than that offline meetings were particularly rare, it was hard to figure if anyone was lying. Well, since we've all gathered, can we discuss what the house that grants wishes is? I began, but Sue spoke over me. Sue, this is the important guy. I think an old veteran of Achibaku managed a liquor store and liked collecting things like the arms of Tengu and the shelf Kappa, if I remember correctly. Yoichi might be a different handle of Krishna. I was sighing, but reacted to the name. That would make sense, someone responded. If we were summarizing the rumor involving Yoichi, if you deal with Yoichi, you'll have to terrify an end. Yoichi isn't a living person. Those that meet Yoichi die 7 days later. Something like that. But we've never heard any specifics of anyone dying, and maybe certain threads were disappearing because Krisha was secretly joining the horror area investigations. Is what I think anyways. I see, not even Karasu. Krishna hasn't been showing up lately either, so that makes sense. Unless, of course, she died. Or he... Wait! Please! I chimed in. Krishna, as in the administrator of Akibarichi? Krishna? Everyone's met him? Met him, or rather, he's always showed up at meetings before. But he's not here today? You want to see him? Of course! The reason I became interested in the site Akaboichi in the first place was being the person named Krishna was so fascinating. Of course, part of it was that I was interested in the occult from the start, but there was a different sort of attraction with Akaboichi. I'm probably saying that completely wrong. That was apparent, for instance, by looking at the odd words at the top of the page. Things that bother people also bother ghosts. From the start, Akaboichi was a site intended to soothe matters between people and ghosts. Most people can't see ghosts. That's why, regardless of our lack of ill intent, that we probably bother ghosts more than they do us was a perspective that was both fresh and unique. And as I read articles about renowned horror areas on Akaboichi, my conviction deepened. Each article is filled with care towards ghosts, taking care to show respect towards both the living and the dead. I always wondered, why are people always afraid of ghosts? Perhaps some ghosts play tricks on people. While other ghosts say, come on, stop it, and are stepping in and intervening, yet no one ever thinks of that possibility. Maybe that sort of order is maintained by ghosts, and is why the vast majority of people live without ever being bothered by the supernatural. That paragraph struck a chord with me in particular. These words moved me when I just arrived in Tokyo and hadn't met anyone I could call a friend. I realized more than ever that people were connected to other people through candor. It gave me courage that I could make do in Tokyo, where it said that people's relationships with other people are often weak and dilated, where people try to avoid needless interaction with other people as much as possible. That was actually why I began participating in the site. I became attracted to that person named Krishna and their daily updates of the wonderful, his deep yet wide-ranging knowledge of the occult, his in-depth, cool writing style. My girl. The truth that could be felt from each and every word. These were all things I lacked, and were packed with things that my soul needed right then. I'd gone to the point where I felt like Krishna had become like my brother and father in Tokyo. And if I could, I wanted Krishna to investigate the house that grants wishes himself. How old is Krishna? What kind of person is he? Nagi-kun, you're stuttering. Calm down. Here, have a drink. Undeterred by the interruptions by Stu and others, I rephrased my question. Please, tell me, how could I meet him? However, the response to my question was an awkward silence by the 30. Wow, you're all jerks. I think he won't show up at an offline meeting again. Why? Something has happened. Something's? Well, eventually you'll find out. Leave it to me for now. I received vague responses like that. What broke the silence at the family restaurant was Zippo, who I think worked as a programmer.
I oppose that opinion.
That opinion? Asked Karasu. That opinion? Asked Karasu, and Zippo pushed his thick glasses up and slowly answered.
That Yoichi and Krishna are the same person. That thought.
What do you mean?
Actually, I know of someone who's met Yoichi in an offline meeting.
Really? The gathering immediately rose in unison. What sort of person? How old? Guy, girl? Which offline? They all asked, and Zippo quietly answered.
The offline meeting was over an investigation of an abandoned hospital in the Tama Prefecture about half a year ago.
And what was Yoichi like?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know? You don't know? Karasu asked, as Zippo swallowed once before answering.
Because he's hospitalized.
Hospitalized?
Psychiatric ward.
And with that, the excited gathering returned to silence. It was as if something heavy and descended upon the seats. Hospitalized in a psychiatric ward? Is that Yoichi's fault? Asked Sue, and Zippo slowly shook his head.
I don't know, but even after we gained consciousness, all he mumbled is Yoichi. That's why I came to this meeting. Because if Yoichi came, I wanted to ask what happened at that offline meeting.
Everyone fell silent when Zippo stopped speaking. And then the family restaurant was filled once again with stories of Yoichi. Come to think of it, was the type of statement preceding conversation as one after another tales Yoichi leaked out from people? If I were to summarize such topics, it seemed Yoichi infrequently appeared on the Inkobrichi forum. Its appearance was not uncommon, but whenever it showed up, it would post in almost every thread providing opinions on everything regardless of how maniacal the topic. Given the time of appearance, Yoichi could be imagined as an occult maniac that was sitting in front of a computer almost 24 hours a day. It had knowledge of the supernatural to rival Krishna, but other posts showed no signs of sharing the ghost love that defined Krishna. If anything, it could be described as more eerie, as if a dead person had eerily joined the internet. Maybe the rumors that Yoichi isn't a living person, they might be true after all, mumbled Jersey, who said he was a writer for magazines. Let's see. Maybe the rumors that Yoichi is a living person, they might be true after all. Remember that thread that popped up some time ago? I'm a ghost, but do you have any questions? Ah, that one where IP traces and PC host all came up empty. So people wonder whether it was real? I'm of the opinion that ethereal forms have good synergy with computers and digital equipment. Because, brainwaves are weak electrical signals too. You do hear a lot of tales of ghosts running online. Then that Yoshi, mumbles Sue in summarizing way. We can't see it. But is it already here? Those words sent a chill down my spine. I looked around the brightly lit store. It wasn't just me, it seemed like everyone felt something cold. Could be gender neutral. You're right, we won't know until it happens. After that, the gathering seemed to decide to avoid talking about ghosts. Gradually, seats became arranged by topic as people broke off into their areas of interest. As the host of the offline meeting, I wanted to bring back the original topic, but I was certain no one remembered anything about my house. Furthermore, Sue was telling fascinating, eerie stories, and that was almost too interesting to pass up. And box brought from the antique store that could not be opened. Ghost stories involving paper money found behind a painting on a hotel wall, a laughing girl who spoke often to a doll. Each provided entertainment that could leave you sleepless when alone at night. Everyone forgot about time as they enjoyed the endless flow of occult discussions. And at around 1 a.m., the offline meeting dispersed.